how have you been this last year and a half, this pandemic? How have you been able to push through?
I gotta tell you, it's actually been really good. And what I mean by that is, while I am aware of all the hot messery that's going on and all the fighting and I want to wear a mask, I don't want to wear a mask, I want the vax, I don't want the vax, and all of the mayhem that it's caused, financial stress and people not being able to work and people not being able to hug, not being able to hug my mother has been really tough. There's another side of it that has been good for me. It has caused me, so a couple of things. Number one, I'm secretly an introvert. Like I'm an extroverted introvert or an introverted extrovert or something. So you tell me to stay home, I'm like, that's okay. Okay. Oh, you don't want me out there? That's fine. And so it's caused me to go within, literally and figuratively, and find even more gifts and talents and abilities that by being out and being distracted by things has caused me to not be aware of. So going within was good for me. It was also interesting in that I met the love of my life and decided to move in together just before the pandemic happened. So we had like a month of freedom and being out, and it's like, oh no, we're living together and now we're really together. And it caused us to really look at each other, build a partnership, build this really strong, amazing partnership. And so I look upon this time with great joy because I formed this incredible relationship with this incredible man. And if it hadn't worked out well, then we would have, one of us would have moved out in the middle of a pandemic, but it worked out to be really wonderful. And so I'm paying attention to all of the things. And I'm also putting my blinders on for what I'm being very focused on what I think is really important. And it has caused work, which we'll talk about, some really great work. So no, I wasn't auditioning and going out to the studio, but I've enriched other things I was already doing. Long answer to say it's been okay for me.
It's been okay. I felt like a lot of people, Black women especially, I've got a couple of girlfriends who have found love in the pandemic. Let's rub some of that juju off on me because I need a boo, a good boo. I need a good boo. Like, let's be clear. Like, it's not like I'm not having somebody rub my shoulders, if you know what I mean. But I need a good boo.
And you want someone rubbing your shoulders and rubbing your soul.
Yes, that's what I need. I need someone to do both. Yeah. So for that, I am extremely happy. But I hear my girlfriends are thriving too, career-wise. I feel like although the world is coming to an end, there's been so many different opportunities because we've been forced to find different, not even forced, but things are there. We got to be more creative. There's more work. There's more opportunity. And I have been a fan of yours for so long. Like your presence, whether you are aware of it or not, for so many young brown girls sets the tone for what fun can be. Like growing up watching you had such a pleasant demeanor. You were always funny. You were always familiar. And that's very important to see familiar. What looks like us. Were you aware of your impact, especially with living single? Were you aware of what it meant for young brown girls?
I was, and maybe not to the degree now, because now, the show has been, actually has never left the air. So It got canceled, but never left the air. And so now you hear it more often, but in the midst of it, I was very aware that we had created something that was really powerful. I knew it was going to work from the time we shot the pilot. I was like, oh no, this is going to work, because the six of us really clicked very easily and very well and very early. Yeah. And so I was aware of the power of that. And as the show was airing and people were coming up and saying what it meant to them. And I have to say, not only Black folks enjoyed it, we began to see, and I was really present to early on, how they were saying it was a Black show, but there were people who were not Black who could resonate, because it was the friendships, because it was the goofiness, because it was, women trying to figure things out. A couple of guys who were very different, but they were still, trying to figure out life and living their life in a particular way and being a particular way with each other, which was loving and playful and all the things. And so how could it not resonate that our body types were so different? And even though the network may have said, oh, could you lose a few pounds, or you're gaining too much weight. I knew that there was not one, that there was a brother out there that would go, that body type right there, I'm good with that. And so all of those things are important. And, you know, one of my favorite things is I have women coming up to me saying, I became an attorney because of Maxine Shaw, attorney at law. Like,
Ooh.
I was watching her and said, that's what I want to do. So that's not even my character influencing. That's Erica Alexander doing what she did. I have met attorneys who said, I became an attorney because she made it possible. The second one would be, well, can I mention 4?
You can mention as many as you want.
The next one would be T.C. Carson and his hair and his Afrocentricness. And so here was this brother who was on Wall Street or as a stockbroker or whatever he did. He had a high-powered job and he was unapologetically Africanistic. That's not a word. The way he wore his hair, the clothing that he wore. And so that made it possible for, it showed that it was possible for other young Black professionals to embrace their Africanness. So let's go there. The next one would be the love between Overton and Sinclair, that, you know, they were innocent and sweet and naive and goofy. And then that was fine and perfect. And they spoke to each other in loving ways, that's a possibility, because the stereotypes would tell us that doesn't exist. And the last one I'll say for now would be the friendship of the women, that of course it's a sitcom. So of course there were, you know, stories about things that didn't work well, but the 4 of us did work well together. We were all very different, but we were all, you know, striving towards something amazing. And so, yeah, so long. I give long answers. Sorry.
No, please. This is amazing. Usually I have to pull things out of people. While you're saying all these different things, it reminds me of what I just felt. It was just normal. It didn't have to be any hood strife, any nonsense, any typical storylines that were very stereotypical. It was our friends. It was, this looks familiar. This is what it is. It was more common than not. And I think that's why it has such an affectionate place. And it's cultural. We talk about this all the time. Sometimes people don't realize, and you do, the culture and how it impacted the culture. For people to come up to Erica and say, I'm an attorney, I totally relate to that because it looked good. I remember when Boomerang came out, people were like, I'm going into advertising. You're like, okay, because Eddie Murphy's character was ahead of an advertiser. Okay, do you know what that means? But for us, we need to see that because it's so rare that these images are just what people do. We're at home, minding our business, doing whatever, and living our lives, and it's a show.
And it's a show. I'm going to run my own magazine. Oh, okay. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Okay. You know, Queen Latifah's character was an entrepreneur. She didn't work for anybody else. She worked for herself and had those struggles. And so does every other entrepreneur. It was a good time. You should know we laughed every day. Like, so while making this, we laughed. To this day, there's an epic text thread that's just us. And it's checking in on births and deaths and marriages and divorces and ups and downs and inside jokes that only we have. And it's glorious.